Part 1 of Extracts from a Diary kept by the Reverend R. Burrows during Heke's War in the North in 1845. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Preface and Introduction. Preface. Some years before the late Sir William Martin left New Zealand, he did me the honour to read the diary, extracts from which are embodied in the following pages, and he advised me not to allow the manuscript to be lost, as it contained what might form a chapter in a future history of New Zealand. I well remember Sir William remarking that although Heke's War was confined to one part of the island, and his followers were comparatively few, yet it represented a crisis in the early history of the colonisation of the country, and that the facts and circumstances connected therewith ought not to be lost to our children. Although I have allowed many years to pass away since those suggestions were made, I always had such implicit confidence in Sir William Martin's judgment, that I all along intended some day to act upon his advice. Having been confined to my home for the last month, I have employed my time in putting together what follows. R.B. St. Stephen's Road, February 17th, 1886. Extracts from Reverend R. Burrows' Diary. For the information of those who may be inclined to read at their leisure the following extracts from a journal kept during the time of what is known as Heke's War, a brief outline of the facts and circumstances which occurred prior to the commencement of hostilities between the Government and Heke may serve as an introduction. It is tolerably well known by all who have read any one of the many books and pamphlets which have been written on New Zealand, that when Captain Hobson, the first governor, landed in the Bay of Islands, he found a considerable number of Europeans, Americans, and some of other nations, congregated in a little bay known as Kororareka, the present site of the town of Russell. There were also 2 Maori pas standing in the forefront, containing as tolerably permanent occupants, about 100. This mixed population, making altogether from 600 to 1000, had their own laws, which were not of a very defined character, nor very rigidly carried out. Perhaps the least said as to the social and moral character of many of the inhabitants, the better. Among the number were to be found some who were absent from Sydney and other penal settlements without leave. Many of these, on the arrival of a mounted police force from New South Wales, made themselves scarce. The trade carried on in the bay at this time was chiefly between the American whalers and the Maoris, the latter exchanging their wares of potatoes, kumara, fish, etc., for blankets, guns, tomahawks, etc. Several merchants had also established themselves in the bay, and were doing a brisk trade, both with the natives and the whaling vessels. There was likewise a considerable export of flax, timber, etc. Shortly after the arrival of the governor, a meeting of most of the influential chiefs living in the districts of the Bay of Islands, Hokianga and Kaipara, was convened at Waitangi, which resulted in the signing of the famous Treaty of Waitangi on the 5th February 1840. Upon this followed in due time the establishment of Her Majesty's Customs. The nature and necessity of this tax, levied upon all imported goods, especially upon goods from America, the natives did not understand, but were soon made to feel by the higher prices put upon the articles they purchased that such a law existed, and there were not wanting, as may be supposed, among the white population, those who told the natives that this was the outcome of their having signed the Treaty of Waitangi, and thus ceded their country to the Queen. The flagstaff which had been set up on the hill above the town, and from which was flying the English ensign, was often pointed to as a sign that the manor, power of the native chiefs had been superseded by that of the Queen. During the short stay in the bay of Captain Hobson and his party, after the signing of the treaty, an attempt was made to establish law and order, which only partially succeeded. Up to May 1841 we were supposed to be governed from New South Wales, and a Lieutenant Smart
Sample complete. Ready to continue?